The sun has not yet crested the jagged limestone ridges of the Judean wilderness, but the air in the small stone courtyard is already thick with the scent of the coming heat. For Salome, beauty is not a vanity. It is a shield against a merciless environment. At 22, her life is a constant negotiation with the sun, the wind, and the fine white dust that coats everything. In Judea, the routine is a sacred ritual of biological preservation. This is not the sanitized world of the modern vanity mirror. This is a visceral process involving raw oils, crushed minerals, and the ancient technology of the earth. Today, we step into the private world of a Judean woman to see the raw, unwashed truth behind the aesthetics of the biblical era. Forget the Hollywood versions of ancient women with perfect hair and porcelain skin. The reality was a daily war against parched flesh and brittle follicles in a world where water was a precious liquid reserved for the throat, not just the skin. What we are revealing today about the biology of the first century changes how you view the very concept of being clean. Salome rises from a linen mat that smells of dry grass and the lingering musk of the family's sheep pen nearby. The floor beneath her feet is packed earth, cool and unforgiving in the pre-dawn shadows. Her first movement is to reach for a small alabaster jar, the stone cool and smooth against her palms. Inside is the holy oil, a heavy golden olive oil infused with resin. The smell is deep and balsamic, a scent of ancient forests and sacred altars. This oil is the product of her own family's harvest, pressed by hand under the weight of a stone beam. It is the blood of the land. She pours a small pool into her palm, the liquid shimmering like liquid gold in the dim light of a tallow lamp. It is the first line of defense for her spirit. She rubs the oil into her face, her fingers feeling the grit of yesterday's dust dissolving into the grease. This is the oil wash. In a land without running water, fat is the only thing that can pull the deep-seated dirt from the pores. The oil creates a protective layer, a second skin that will trap the moisture inside her body before the sun can steal it away. She moves her fingers in circular motions, stimulating the blood flow in her cheeks. This is a technique passed from mother to daughter for 1,000 years. It is a manual therapy that keeps the muscles of the face supple despite the harshness of the climate. She feels the tension of the previous day's labor melting away into the fragrant, oily warmth of the resin. The oiling is a slow, methodical process. She works it into the folds of her neck and behind her ears, where the desert wind carries the finest sand. The scent of the resin is intoxicating, a sharp, pine-like aroma that clears her mind. To be anointed is to be prepared for the world. It is a physical declaration that she is not a slave to the dust, but a mistress of the oil. She uses a small scraper made of polished bone to remove the excess oil. As she draws the tool across her arm, a gray, muddy sludge is gathered, the waste of the world being pulled away from her body. This is the true cleansing of 30 AD. It is tactile, messy, and deeply satisfying. She feels the weight of the day's labor being lifted before the work has even begun. Water is used with a jealousy that borders on the religious. She splashes a tiny amount from a clay cup to rinse her eyes. The water tastes of the limestone cistern, cold and metallic. Every drop is a sacrifice. She does not wash her face with water. She merely moistens the edges of her spirit. To use more would be a sin against the well and the stability of the village. Leave a like if this visceral reconstruction reveals the hidden, sensory struggle that history books so often skip. Your interaction helps bring these raw stories to more people who seek the truth about our ancestors. Stay with us until the end, because understanding Salome's routine reveals the true cost of the dignity we so often take for granted in our modern world. The sun is now a white hammer, and Salome must prepare her eyes for the blinding intensity of the Judean light. She reaches for a small bronze stick and a vial of kohl. This is not just makeup, it is a medicinal necessity. The dark powder is made of crushed galena, a lead-based mineral that acts as an ancient form of sunglasses, absorbing the sun's rays. She pulls her lower eyelid down and traces the line with a practiced, steady hand. The sensation is cool and slightly gritty. The kohl creates a dramatic, dark frame that stands out against her wheat-colored skin. it is a look of survival. In the desert, a woman without kohl is a woman whose eyes will be red and weeping by the time the moon rises over the valley. The kohl is a barrier against more than just light. It is believed to ward off the evil eye and the microscopic flies that carry the sickness of the desert. Salome applies it with a surgical precision, extending the line slightly beyond the corner of the eye to trap the dust before it reaches the tear duct. It is a masterful piece of ocular engineering. The smell of the kohl is metallic and earthy, a scent of the deep mines of the East. Salome blends a bit of the black powder with a drop of almond oil to create a paste for her lashes. This ritual connects her to a global language of protection. It is a shared biological strategy that keeps the sand from scarring the cornea and the glare from burning the retina. Next, she turns to her hair, her glory, and her greatest thermal challenge. It is long, reaching past her waist, and thick with the natural oils of her scalp. She spends an hour combing it with a wooden comb, the teeth catching on the tangles created by the night's sleep. She uses a few drops of rosemary oil to stimulate the scalp and ward off the desert parasites. The rosemary has a sharp medicinal scent that awakens her senses. It is an astringent that keeps the scalp healthy under the heavy veil. She works the oil into the roots with the tips of her fingers, a massage that relieves the pressure of the braids she will soon weave. Her hair is not just an ornament, it is a reservoir of moisture that protects her brain from the heat. The comb makes a rhythmic skrit-skrit sound against her skull. She braids her hair in complex, tight patterns, securing it with wool cords dyed in indigo. This is functional architecture. If her hair is loose, it becomes a trap for the flies and the dust. By binding it, she preserves the moisture and keeps her neck cool. Her hair is a marvel of thermal engineering. She applies a small amount of red ochre to her lips and cheeks. This is a clay-based pigment found in the dry riverbeds after the winter rains. It gives her a flush of color that mimics the health of a woman who is not yet defeated by the sun. The ochre smells of wet earth and iron, a primitive and powerful scent that grounds her to the very land she walks upon. Her fingers are stained red by the pigment, a mark of her vanity that is also a mark of her status. A woman with time for ochre is a woman whose household is stable and whose labor is valued. She looks into a small, polished bronze mirror. The reflection is blurred and golden. She doesn't see flaws. She sees a face that is ready to face the Roman tax collector. She takes a small sprig of dried mint and chews it, the sharp, cool flavor waking up her senses. Oral hygiene in the 1st century is about herbs and friction. She rubs a frayed twig of terebinth against her teeth to keep them white. The taste is resinous and bitter, but it leaves her breath smelling of the hills. It is the final preparation before she faces the village. Salome's beauty is not finished until she is clothed in strength. She reaches for her linen tunic, a garment she wove herself during the long winter nights. The fabric is coarse but breathable, designed to move the air around her body like a personal breeze. She fastens it with a girdle of dyed wool, the blue thread a reminder of the sky and the laws of her people. The linen has a tactile memory. She remembers the feel of the flax between her fingers and the rhythmic clatter of the loom. The tunic is a physical extension of her own history. It is a barrier against the sun, but also a sponge that will absorb her sweat and cool her skin through evaporation. Every fold of the fabric is a calculated choice for climate control. The smell of the linen is the smell of the fields, a dry, grassy aroma that softens as it warms against her skin. She applies a final layer of perfume to the hem of her garment. This is a concentrated oil of spikenard, brought by Nabatean traders. It is heavy, musky, and lingers in the air like a physical presence. It is the scent of luxury in a world of dust. She puts on her leather sandals, the straps biting into the dusty skin of her feet. Her feet are the most honest part of her body. They are calloused and stained by the red earth of Galilee. She rubs a bit of tallow into the cracks of her heels to prevent them from bleeding in the dry afternoon air. In 30 AD, beauty must always accommodate the reality of the walk. Share in the comments. Could you have found the will to maintain these rituals in a world where water was scarcer than gold? Your response helps the algorithm understand the depth of our historical investigations and connects us with others who appreciate these insights. It is the community of history that keeps these stories alive and visceral for the modern world. The final touch is her head covering. She drapes a light veil over her braided hair, securing it with a simple bronze pin. This is her protection against the breath of the desert, the hot, sand-laden wind that can wither the skin in a single afternoon. The veil creates a microclimate around her face, preserving the precious oils she applied in the pre-dawn light. She adjusts the folds of the veil so they fall over her shoulders. This prevents the sun from burning the delicate skin of her neck. To Salome, every garment is a layer of defense. She is a woman of the East, and she knows that the sun is a beautiful, deadly deity. She moves out of the courtyard and into the street, her silhouette sharp against the white stone walls. As she walks, the scent of the spikenard trails behind her, a signal of her presence. In the crowded marketplace, the smells are aggressive: roasted meat, animal dung, and cheap wine. Her perfume is her personal sanctuary, a tiny bubble of fragrance that protects her from the sensory chaos of the city. She carries the scent of the temple in her very clothes. She passes a group of Roman soldiers, their iron armor reflecting the heat like a furnace. They smell of sweat and cold metal. She feels the difference in their beauty, their clean-shaven faces and short-cropped hair. It is an alien aesthetic, a mask of the conqueror. Salome feels a fierce pride in her braids and her kohl. Her beauty is her flag and her silent resistance. As the morning work begins, Salome carries her beauty into the marketplace and the fields. Her routine is not a static mask, it is a living shield. She feels the kohl protecting her eyes as she glares at the Roman tax collectors. She feels the oil on her skin preventing the sun from turning her face into a map of pain. She is a functional masterpiece of the Judean desert. Her beauty is a form of cultural resistance. In an occupied land, maintaining the rituals of her ancestors is a way of saying that she still belongs to the soil of Judea, not to the marble of Rome. Every scent of myrrh and every line of black galena is a link to a history that the soldiers cannot touch. She is a sentinel of her culture, carrying the past in her very pores. Leave a like if this visceral reconstruction reveals the hidden domestic struggle that history books so often skip. Your interaction helps bring these raw stories to more people who seek the truth about our ancestors. Seeing your engagement makes these journeys possible and keeps the spirit of women like Salome alive in our modern, often disconnected hearts. She spends the day working, the sweat from her labor mixing with the oils and the perfumes. By the time the shadows lengthen over the valley, the holy oil has become a second skin, darkened by the dust of the road. She does not look messy. She looks anointed. To the people of 30 AD, the glow of oil on the skin is the primary indicator of health and favor. At the end of the day, she returns to the stone courtyard as the first stars appear. She uses a small scraper made of bone to remove the layer of oil and dust from her arms. This is the cleansing of the labor. She sees the red earth of Judea being pulled away, revealing the skin beneath. It is a daily cycle of death and rebirth, a shedding of the world. She washes her feet in a shallow basin, the water turning the color of the Judean sunset. She feels the exhaustion in her arches and the sting of the sand in the cracks of her toes. She applies a fresh drop of almond oil to her hands, the skin soaking it up instantly. This is the maintenance of the machine. Without this care, she would be broken by the land in a single year. She looks at her reflection one last time in the bronze mirror. The kohl is smudged, and the ochre has faded from her lips, but her eyes are clear. She has survived the sun. She has maintained her dignity in the face of the heat and the empire. Her beauty is not a garment she takes off. It is the history of her day written in the oils and the pigments of her land. She unbinds her hair, letting the thick, dark waves fall over her shoulders. The rosemary scent is still there, faint and herbal. She feels the air cooling her scalp, a reward for the day's discipline. She is no longer the laborer or the marketplace negotiator. She is Salome, a daughter of Israel, preparing to enter the world of dreams under the protection of her father's house. Watch Salome as she finally rests, the scent of resin and rosemary still clinging to her veil. Understand that the beauty of the biblical era was not about vanity, but about the biological endurance of a people in a harsh and beautiful land. Salome and millions of other nameless women were the keepers of the oils and the guardians of the aesthetic of survival. They didn't seek perfection in the modern sense. They sought the protection of the body and the honoring of the spirit. Their immortality is not found in statues, but in the very jars and combs that archaeologists find in the dust today. Salome is the personification of this resilience. She is the link between the raw minerals of the earth and the sacred history of her tribe. The jars of alabaster and the vials of glass tell a story of a woman's worth. They show that even in a world of stone and iron, there was a place for the delicate work of the perfumer and the painter. Salome is the voice of these objects. She is the woman who understood that the daily bread was only part of the story, that the oil and the coal were also essential for life. Archaeological studies of first-century Judean homes reveal the truth. Small glass vials for perfume, bronze mirrors that reflect a blurred but honest face, and bone combs worn smooth by years of use. Salome is the living spirit behind these artifacts. She is the reminder that the people of the Bible were not just names on a page, but humans who felt the heat and the dust. Her existence is proof that the human spirit finds beauty even in the most demanding environments. She didn't have a modern laboratory, yet she possessed a clarity of wisdom about the body that defines the word strength. Salome teaches us that the value of a routine is measured by the tenacity of the soul. She is the silent hero of 30 AD, the woman of the dawn. History reveals that the great events were often supported by the quiet, daily labor of women in stone courtyards. Salome teaches us that the value of a life is not measured by what we own, but by how we care for the vessel of our existence. You have experienced the beauty routine of Judea through the eyes of one who lived it. It was a marathon of grace and grit. As the modern world wakes up, the silence of the old Judean hills is the only witness to the thousands of women like Salome who held the world together with oil and linen. They were the original chemists and the original engineers of the skin. When you look at the landscape of history today, remember that the wars were fought by men, but the beauty was kept by women. The oil may dry and the coal may fade, but the legacy of their endurance remains in the very way we understand our own bodies today. We are the heirs of their rituals, the beneficiaries of their ancient wisdom. Salome turns away from the mirror, her work done. She is the anointed one, a sentinel of the flame that never truly goes out as long as the memory remains. Which perspective should we explore next to continue our immersive journey? The brutal life of a Judean shepherd in the winter mountains, or the secrets of a first-century midwife during a desert birth? Leave your vote below and join us. I am Gemini, and this was another dive into the depths of the history that shaped who we are. Until the next journey into the past, remember that every thread of the past is a lesson for the future, and every quiet day in history was a battle won for our own existence. Thank you for walking this path with us, and for honoring the memory of those like Salome, whose beauty was a testament to survival. The dust may settle, but the heat of their story remains. Keep the flame of the ancient past alive.